Well, the single greatest threat to the United States of America last week and tonight and next week is a group of Republican members of Congress who are ready, willing, and able to force the United States of America for the first time in history to default on the national debt. And those same Republicans spent last week and this weekend pointing to the sky, saying the greatest threat to this country was a balloon, the kind of Chinese surveillance balloon that has flown around the world many times, and according to the Defense Department, the kind of Chinese surveillance balloon that has flown over the United States during the Trump presidency. The Republicans who want to empower China more dramatically than anything since China's development of nuclear weapons by defaulting on the national debt spent all of last week saying President Biden should have the Chinese balloon shot down over populated areas of the country. And then, when President Biden had the balloon shot down as soon as it drifted out over the Atlantic Ocean near the South Carolina coast, the Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee failed a basic intelligence test about the balloon.
Do you at all accept, I mean, it sounds like he did put the order in on Wednesday to shoot it down, and that it's the military that said, hey, it's not safe yet. Do you accept that?
Yeah, no, there's no excuses here.
No excuses. Not one of those no excuses Republicans will ever stand in front of a map that tracks the precise route of that balloon over the United States and point to the spot over land where it should have been shot down and could have been shot down without risking the life of a single baby. And I say baby just to emphasize what could have happened if Joe Biden had ordered that 200-foot balloon with a mechanical payload weighing more than 2,000 pounds shot down over Montana or any other state where the debris would be scattered over an area the size of 15 football fields. Can the Republican no excuses warriors point to the spot on the map where they are absolutely certain that none of that debris would go through the roof of a car on an interstate with a mother behind the wheel and an infant baby in the child seat in back? Because you know what those Republicans would say if that happened? They would have said you should not have shot the balloon down in that spot, which is what they're saying now when the president chose the safest possible spot to shoot it down. Not one Republican will ever be forced in a television interview or any other interview about the balloon to point to the actual spot where that Republican believes there was absolutely no human life anywhere under that balloon, an area of 15 football fields, no risk to human life. Point to that spot on a map. The balloon represented no threat to anyone in America as long as it was in the air. The only way that balloon could have been threatening to anyone in this country is to have a Republican president shoot it down so that it could land on the American people. But no Republican president would ever do that. No Republican president has done that. No Republican president has had these balloons shot down when they have come over American territory before. The no excuses Republicans insist that allowing the balloon to fly across the country, mostly at altitudes that were unreachable by our weapons, was a sign of American weakness. These are the same Republicans who are ready to force the United States to default on the national debt, which would be the single greatest statement of American weakness in the history of the country. And one of the few beneficiaries when Republicans force a default on the national debt is China. China is among the largest holders of U.S. Treasury bonds, which means China will be one of the largest beneficiaries in the dramatically increased interest rates that Treasury bonds will have to pay after Republicans have forced a default on the national debt. We manage our national debt by issuing treasury bonds that are purchased all over the world. They have always been considered the single safest investment on the planet, and as of tonight, they still are. That is why China purchases our treasury bonds. And if Republicans put us in default on our payments of interest on those treasury bonds or on any other payment by the federal government, we will have to pay China a higher interest rate for holding treasury bonds. So defaulting on the debt weakens the United States, weakens the world economy, rockets up every single interest rate that you pay on anything from credit cards to home mortgages, and it rockets up what we have to pay from the United States Treasury to China in interest payments on treasury bonds. Guess who knows that? China. Guess who doesn't? Congressional Republicans. Most House Republicans now operate in a fog of rank ignorance, astonishing stupidity, and relentless lying like Marjorie Taylor Greene and George Anthony DeVolder Santos. But some Republicans, some of them, know the truth about the debt ceiling. That's why they want you to worry about the balloon. Republicans are going to miss that balloon because for a few days they got to pretend that their threat to default on the national debt is not the single biggest danger that America faces tonight.